of water. Come listen to my story, landsmen one and all. I'll sing to you the dangers of that raging canal. For I am one of many who expects a watery grave. I've been at the mercy of the wind and the waves. Well, we left Albany Harbor about the break of day. If rightly I remember, it was the 2nd day of May. We trusted in our driver, although he was but small, for he knew all the windings of that raging canal. Well, it seemed as if the devil had work in hand that night. Our oil was all gone, and the lamps, they gave no light. Clouds began to gather, and the rain began to fall. I wished myself off of that raging canal. So sad was the fate of our dear devoted bark. The rain kept pouring harder, and the night it grew more dark. The horses gave a stumble, and the driver gave a squall. We tumbled head and heels into that raging canal. Then the captain came on deck with a spyglass in his hand. But the fog, it was so thick that he could not discover land. He said to us in a faltering voice while tears began to fall, "Prepare to meet your death this night, my boys, on the canal." It was our good fortune about the break of day. That storm it did abate, and a boat came by that way. Our signal was discovered, and they hove alongside. We all hopped aboard, and for Buffalo did ride. And said Fred Emmons, "Let me tell you how to manage wind and weather. In a storm, hug to the towpath, and then lay feather to feather. And when the weather is bad, and the wind it blows a gale, just jump ashore, knock down a horse that's taking in the sail. And should you wish to see both sides of the canal, to steer a course for Buffalo, and that right true and well. And if you should be the should you wish to see both sides of the canal, to steer a course for Buffalo, and that right true and well. And should it be so foggy that you cannot spy the track, just hitch a lantern on board and hitch a lantern to your back." Thank you. That is a professionally written song, believe it or not, as so many of our Erie Canal songs are. We were taught, did anybody learn that Erie Canal song in 4th grade about the mule?
Oh, yeah.
The mule that had a name, and her name was? Right, and we were taught that that was a folk song from the Erie Canal. That was a song that the canalers used to sing. Well, it wasn't, and most of these songs weren't. I've been doing about 15 or 20 years worth of research into Erie Canal music. Music that was sung and played on the canal, music that was written about the canal, and so much of it was actually written by professional songwriters for the stage, for plays, for productions, for the minstrel shows, for vaudeville. And so that first song that I started with, it's actually got about 8 more verses than that. It's a very, very long, wordy song, as many of these canal songs are. And it was by far the 1800s most well-known Erie Canal song. Mark Twain knew that song, and he actually wrote a parody to it called The Aged Pilot Man. Stephen Foster, the great American songwriter of the 19th century, referenced that song in one of his songs, so it was very widespread and well-known. I want to carry on with another one from that same era. That was 1840s, and this one is 1850s. Again, written for commercial purposes, believe it or not. This came on a broadside. A broadside was a little sheet that would be typed up with song lyrics, and peddlers would go around selling broadsides for a penny or so, and this was your source of music, and it was kind of like a new song coming on the radio, and so topical songs were very common and sold fairly well. This one tells of an Irish immigrant coming to America, and I think as you listen to the song, to the lyrics, you'll be able to see why it may not be. It's spoken in the voice of a man who comes and works on the Erie Canal, but we'll see if you, as you listen to the lyrics, see how authentic you think it may or may not be, based on what he tells us. Paddy on the Canal, P-A-D-D-Y. When I landed in sweet Philadelphia, the weather was pleasant and fair, but I did not stay long in that city. No, right now I will let you hear. No, I didn't stay long in that city, for it happened to be in the fall. So I married to sail in my rigging till I anchored out on this canal. Yes, when I came to this wonderful empire, it filled me with greatest surprise. Oh, to see such a great undertaking, one the like never opened my eyes. Yes, I saw a full 1,000 brave fellows at work among mountains so tall, and digging through valleys so level, through the rock for to cut this canal. So it's fare you well, father and mother, likewise to old Ireland too, and it's fare you well, sister and brother, most kindly I bid you adieu. So I entered with them for a season, my monthly pay for to draw, and I being in very good humor, I often sung Erin go bragh. Our provisions, they were very plenty, to complain we'd no reason at all. I had money in every pocket, while I worked out upon this canal. Yes, and I learned to be very handy, to use both the shovel and spade. Sure, I learned the whole art of canaling, and I think it's an excellent trade. Yes, I learned to be quite handy. Although I'm not very tall, I could handle a sprig of shillelagh with the best men out on this canal. So it's fare you well, father and mother, likewise to old Ireland too, and it's fare you well, sister and brother, most kindly I bid you adieu. And because I was such a stranger, be sure I had not much to say, when that boss come around in a hurry, saying, boys, it is grog time of day. Yes, and we'd all march up in good order. He was father now unto us all. Oh, I wished for myself from that moment to be working out on this canal. Yes, and at night when we rest from our labors, be sure that the rent was all paid, when we lay down the axe and the shovel, and likewise the pick and the spade. Yes, and we'd all sit a-joking together. There was nothing our minds to enthrall. Oh, if happiness be in this wide world, then I'm sure it is on this canal. So it's fare you well, father and mother, likewise to old Ireland too, and it's fare you well, sister and brother, most kindly I bid you adieu.
it was a recruitment for laborers, right?
I
Money in every pocket?
Money in every pocket. Now, they did pay the adult workers who dug the original canal, they paid them fairly well. If you were a laborer during that time, you know, 50 cents, 80 cents, up to $1 a day, and they gave them 3 meals a day and a place to sleep. Wasn't the worst money, but yeah, that's one part.
Grog.
The grog, yes, right. Grog was typically not available, especially when you had a group of men, whether they were working in a lumber camp or on the Erie Canal, when you had a group of men thrown together. Although we do have those stories of whiskey barrels being placed every mile or two as they were trying to incentivize the workers to get the canal finished. Right, so, and he talks about it being the happiest, most joyful, wonderful place on earth, and the boss is like his father, and if happiness is anywhere, surely it's right here digging this ditch. So we know that it was difficult and back-breaking work, and it was 6 days a week, and it was very long hours. But the pay was fairly good, and this is what made people even from overseas, this is what motivated them to come to America and end up working on the canal. Of course, so many of those families stayed, and their ancestors are still here today. I read a wonderful, at the eastern end of the Erie Canal, when the canal met up with the Hudson River in Troy, New York, outside of Albany, most of that traffic that was heading in the eastward direction was farm products and lumber and coal from the Midwest that was going across the canal. And most of it wasn't going across to end in Albany. That's just where the canal ended. The whole point of connecting to Albany was you could access the Hudson River, which would take you right down to New York City and the ocean. But once your canal boat got to the end of the line in the eastern direction, you could, your mule was of no use in getting you down the Hudson River, right? So what they would do is typically 4 canal boats would tie up behind a tugboat. And the tugboat or steamboat would take you down the Hudson River, pull the canal boats down to New York Harbor, and then they'd go on from there. And so the canalers would have a day or two off as they were being pulled down the Hudson River after their trip of several days across the canal. And so I read a wonderful 1880s newspaper article about a spontaneous little party that happened one night on these canal boats, which were being pulled in a group of 4 down the Hudson River. It turned out there was a fiddler on board one of the boats, which was not uncommon at all. Lots of people back then played the fiddle. It might have been the captain himself or one of the family members who worked on the boat. And so the fiddle player comes out on the deck of one of the canal boats and starts to crank out one of the old jigs or reels. And before too long, some people from one of the other boats that's tied up together with them come out onto their deck, and they start having a little dance, a little social dance, kind of the precursor of the square dance. And so the other boats are starting to hear what's going on, and before too long you have sets of dancers on all 4 boats dancing to the music of this one man who's playing the fiddle as they're being pulled down the river by a tugboat. So pretty colorful imagery for me anyway. So I'm going to play you a medley of 2 pieces of music they may have been dancing to. I don't play the fiddle, unfortunately, but I play the mandolin, which is kind of the cousin of the fiddle. It's got the same notes on it, and it's tuned the same way. So I'm going to play you 2 pieces of music that the New York fiddlers were playing at that time. The first one is, it's a really old piece called the rustic reel. It's actually not a reel at all, but a jig. And the second piece, if you have heard any American square dance music, you might recognize the second piece is kind of the precursor to the square dance. It's called the Fisher's Hornpipe. So 2 tunes to dance to, and there is some room. If you want to get warmed up for next month. But see if this brings any images to mind. dancing? I couldn't see. Well, I hope you feel like singing a little bit. This has got a wonderful little refrain. It's a low bridge song, but it's not that one. It comes from just about 2 decades before the Mule Named Sal song. This is 1880s from the vaudeville stage, and originally sung in this kind of Negro dialect lyrics that were somewhat common at the time. I don't sing it that way, but charming words nonetheless. And it's got a little singing part for you. When I sing the words, "Look out that low bridge," you can sing those right back to me. You sing, "Look out that low bridge." So let's give that a try. I'll sing it, and then you. Look out that low bridge. 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 The captain, cook, and all the crew, oh, duck your heads way down. And right there we all go. See, I work in schools a lot. With 4th graders. That's what we do there. So, let's put that all together. Look out that low bridge. 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 The captain, cook, and all the crew, oh, duck your heads way down. Fastest ship in all the fleet, 2 sisters comes to town. So you'll see where all that fits in. This is called Oh That Low Bridge. It's many miles to Buffalo. Oh, that low bridge. Bulky mule, she's moving slow. Oh, that low bridge. There's gravel on the towpath. Hornets in the sand. Oh, pity, poor Canal, so far away from land. So look out that low bridge. 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 The captain, cook, and all the crew, oh, duck your heads way down. Fastest ship in all the fleet, 2 sisters comes to town. There's many locks to shut you in. Oh, that low bridge. Every worm must learn to swim. Oh, that low bridge in rain or stormy weather. The captain's on the poop, all huddled all together like chickens in a coop. So look out that low bridge. 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 The captain, cook, and all the crew, oh, duck your heads way down. Fastest ship in all the fleet, 2 sisters comes to town. That's wonderful. I was really just kidding about ducking your head. But it's much better when you do. We're froze up in the winter time. Oh, that low bridge. Summer, how the sun does shine. Oh, that low bridge. We're loaded down with barley and lumber from the west. Now every poor canaler, now do your level best. So look out that low bridge. 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 The captain, cook, and all the crew, oh, duck your heads way down. Fastest ship in all the fleet, 2 sisters comes to town. There's groceries in the cabin there. Oh, that low bridge never leaks, she's full of tar. Oh, that low bridge, there's freckles on the children, glanders on the mules, mosquitoes by the million that keep that golden rule. So look out that low bridge. 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 The captain, cook, and all the crew, oh, duck your heads way down. Fastest ship in all the fleet, 2 sisters comes to town. The captain, cook, and all the crew, oh, duck your heads way down. Fastest ship in all the fleet, 2 sisters comes to town. Very nice. I like to contrast all these kind of stage songs about the canal with the song that we think of as by far the most authentic Erie Canal folk song. This is a song that was recorded, luckily just in the nick of time, in a few different places. There was a man named John Galusha who was an ordinary, average jack of all trades from the 19th century. He was born in 1859. He lived in the Adirondack Mountains of New York, and he had worked as a forest ranger and a fire tower observer and a lumberjack, and he had worked on the canals, and he had picked up a bunch of songs, as people did back then, because you didn't have a radio. So keeping music in your head was a little bit more important than it is today. And so John Galusha had about 70 or 80 songs he could sing off the top of his head. And fortunately, in 1939, when he was 80 or 81 years old, some song collectors met up with him, a couple named Ann and Frank Warner, who traveled all up and down the east coast of America back then, collecting old songs from old people before the songs died away. And among the 60 songs he sang for them, he also met another collector a couple of years later and sang 60 for her, and 20 of them were different. But among the 60 that he sang for the Warners, there was one little Erie Canal song in there. And Frank Warner said to him afterward, he said, you know, I've been looking for Erie Canal songs for a long time, and I never have heard that one before. He says, how long ago did you learn that? And John Galusha laughs. He says, oh, I think it must have been about 100 years ago I heard that one. So I'm going to sing it for you, and I'm going to sing it more or less the way John Galusha sang it, which was the way most people sang these songs back then, which was with no accompaniment whatsoever, no instrument in hand. They just sang them. They sang them acapulco, as we say, or acapella. So here's this little song from John Galusha. He didn't make it up, but he learned it on the canal. It's called A Trip on the Erie. You can talk of your picnics and trips on the lake, but a trip on the Erie, you'll bet, takes the cake. With a beefsteak as tough as a fighting dog's neck, and the flies playing tag with the cook on the deck. Haul in your tow line and take up your slack. Take a reef in your trousers and straighten your back. Mind what I tell you and don't you forget to tap the mules gently when the cook's on the deck. The cook, she's a daisy, she's dead gone on me, with her fiery red hair and she's twice 23. She's cross-eyed and freckled, she's a dumpling, a pet, and we use her for a headlight each night on the deck. Haul in your tow line and take in your slack. Take a reef in your breeches and straighten your back. Mind what I tell you and don't you forget. And tap the mules gently when the cook's on the deck. That's all I can do. You can kind of feel the difference, right? With that and the other ones. It's much rougher and more colorful in a way. Well, I brought my washboard, and I'll show you a couple of ways the Canalers used to get their music. Again, no radios, no buttons to push when you wanted to hear music, and so it wasn't convenient to bring your piano with you as you traveled or worked. If you were lucky, somebody had a violin or a fiddle, same instrument, accordion, or a little mouth organ or a harmonica. But just as often, you sort of were left to improvise, and maybe that meant that you had memorized the words for a couple of these songs and you could sing them. Not because you thought you were a great entertainer or singer, but because you needed music in your life. And just as often, they would just pick up things that were either laying around or things that they could bring in their pockets. So this is a prime example. Every canal boat, every work camp had one of these. And get something metal like these. Sewing thimbles or a spoon works very well. And if you scrape the metal part of the washboard with the metal object, it's nice and loud. Actually, it might not be that nice, but it's loud. So, it served the purpose. With 2 fingers, you can tap out a little rhythm. It's kind of like a little mini drum set. You can play it slow. You can play it faster. the washboard. These right here, you carry around in your back pocket. These are called the bones, and they're made out of bones, cow bone. So anytime you're taking a little break from your work, you pull them out, put them in one hand, turn your wrist, and they snap together. They make a nice little, satisfying little clack. So, pretty simple to keep a little beat. Once you figure out how to do that, if you wiggle your hand around a little more, who's going to come up and try these? I can teach you to play them real quick. Any takers? Come on. What's your name, son? William, come on right over here. And which hand do you throw snowballs with? This one. Okay. Get that hand out. Okay, William, we're going to put the first bone right here. And what I want you to do is bring your middle finger down on top of it. Push it into your hand nice and tight. Good. Perfect. Now we're going to take the second bone. We're going to put it right here. And this one I want you to let it be just kind of floppy and loose. Okay? Good. All right. Now, William, hold your hand out in front of you. And now we're going to imagine that a giant bumblebee has just landed on your hand. And it's going to sting you really hard. So you got to get rid of it. William's, wait, have you done this before? William's playing the bones. How about a nice round of applause? William, you have to give those back. Anybody else want to try these real quick? Come on. What's your name? Claire. All right, Claire, stand right here. Right-handed? Okay, hold out your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Claire. Okay. Right there. Middle finger down. Press it into your hand. Nice and tight. Okay, good. Now the second one's going to go here. Nice and loose. Now, Claire, here's your situation. Your hand is out here. A spider has walked onto your hand.
Oh, I hate spiders.
That's perfect. And you cannot swat it with your other hand because you're texting. So the only thing you can do to get rid of that spider is,
Pick it up.
yeah. These you've probably seen before. Very commonly played on the Erie Canal. Old Dan Tucker was a mean old man, washed his face in a frying pan, combed his hair on a wagon wheel, died with a toothache in his heel. Get out the way, old Dan Tucker, get out the way, old Dan Tucker, get out the way, old Dan Tucker, it's too late to get your supper. And my favorite of all from Erie Canal days, probably many of you know this one, the juice harp or the jaw harp. People would carry these around in their shirt pockets. It was the perfect portable music. You could have music everywhere you went. I'm going to sing you a song on this. There's a little village next to Buffalo, New York, which is called Black Rock. And there was a big rivalry. When they started to dig the Erie Canal, they actually didn't start in Buffalo and they didn't start in Albany. They started in the middle. They started in Rome, New York. And the reason they did it, they started there, is there were a lot of naysayers who thought that this project was going to be too big of an undertaking, too many miles, too difficult, was going to take too much work and too much money. And so they wanted to prove, once they got the go-ahead and they got the financing, and New York State paid for the whole thing ourselves, they wanted to prove that they could make some headway quickly. And so they chose the section of the state where there's a nice level section for a while in both directions. And so they broke ground in Rome and they started to work in both directions toward the two ends. Well, as the canal was getting closer to Buffalo, there was a big rivalry between the village of Black Rock and the village of Buffalo, both of whom wanted the end of the Erie Canal, because they both realized whatever town got the end of the Erie Canal was going to become a very prosperous city. And so Black Rock actually had a much better suited harbor. Black Rock's about a mile or two off of Lake Erie, up on the Niagara River, with a nice little harbor. It was nice and quiet, and you didn't have to deal with any of the storms from the lake. And Buffalo really did not have a naturally suited harbor, even though Buffalo is right at the mouth of Lake Erie. What Buffalonians did is literally in the middle of the night, in the 23rd hour, went out and dug themselves a harbor and took care of a couple of the issues that were preventing navigation into Buffalo Harbor, and stole the terminus of the Erie Canal away from Black Rock. So Buffalo became the big city, Black Rock remained this little village. But Black Rock was well known on the canal for at least one other thing. There was a food product made there starting in the 1840s called Black Rock pork. Now Black Rock pork, as I like to describe it to fourth graders, was like if you took 50 pieces of beef jerky and you pressed it together into a tiny little ball, and then you salted and let it dry some more, and salted and let it dry some more, and salted and let it dry some more, until it was hard as a cannonball. And they take this stuff and they pack it into barrels and they roll it on board the boats. And if you were a crew member, if you worked on the boat, sometimes that was all there was for you to eat, was Black Rock pork. By all accounts, there was a cook on board the canal boats, and by all accounts, the cook made delicious food for the people who paid money to travel on the boat. But if you worked on the boat, sometimes all there was the Black Rock pork. So one of the canalers made up a little ditty about Black Rock pork. I shipped on board of a lumber boat by the name of the Charles O'Rourke. And the very first thing that they rolled on board was a barrel of Black Rock pork. That's it. We fried a chunk for luncheon and a chunk for dinner too. But it was not so goody good, and it was hard to chew. From Buffalo to old New York, they fed it to poor old me. Then we boiled up the barrel and the rest of the pork, and we had it all for tea. I want to show you how it works. It's just made out of metal. All the blacksmiths used to make them, and most of it's just a frame. You just hold on to the edges. It's got a little lever in the middle. So you pull it back, and you let it go. It vibrates, goes back and forth. But as you can hear, it doesn't make any sound or any music until you press it up against your teeth. Once you do that, then your mouth kind of becomes the amplifier or the sound chamber, and everybody can hear it. Without your mouth, with your mouth. So then if you breathe in and out kind of loud like this, you can make it a lot louder and give it some rhythm. And then I discovered something even better. If you wiggle your tongue around a little in your throat, you can make it sound just like the cartoons or the old-time movies, like when two people bump into each other by accident. Right? do one more song and then we'll see if anybody has any questions. I figure we ought to do that one that we've been ignoring all night, huh? The one about the mule? Now, how many learned this when they were kids?
If it's this one.
Yeah, the one about Low Bridge, everybody down, 15. So, how many learned it as 15 miles on the Erie Canal?
Yes.
Okay. And how many learned it as 15 years on the Erie Canal? Anybody? You might actually be dating yourself if you vote for that one. It turns out, originally written not until 1905. There were no more mules on the canal in 1905. And originally written as 15 years on the Erie Canal. So just for tonight, let's see if we can sing it that way. I've got an old mule and her name is Sal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. She's a good old worker and a good old pal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. Well, we hauled some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay. Every inch of the way I know, from Albany to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, we must be getting near the town. You can always tell your neighbor, always tell your pal, if you ever navigated on the Erie Canal. Well, we better go around for a job, old gal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. You bet your life I wouldn't part with Sal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. Get up there, Sal, we've passed that lock, and we'll make Rome before 6 o'clock. One more trip, and then we'll go right straight back to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, I got the finest mule in town. Once a man named Mike McGinty tried to put it over Sal. Now he's way down at the bottom of the Erie Canal. Also turns out there are 5 different verses to this song. Well, where would I be if I lost my gal? 15 years on the Erie Canal. I'd like to see a mule as good as Sal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. Well, a friend of mine once made her sore. Now he's got a broken jaw. She kicked him with her iron toe, kicked him back to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, I got the finest mule in town. If you're looking around for trouble, stay away from Sal. She's the only fighting donkey on the Erie Canal. Well, I don't have to call when I want my gal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. She trots from her stall like a good old gal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. I eat my meals with Sal each day. I eat beef and she eats hay. She ain't so slow if you wanna know. Sal put the buff in Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, I got the finest mule in town. She eats a bale of hay for dinner. On top of that, my Sal tries to drink up all the water in the Erie Canal. You'll soon hear him singing all about my gal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. It's a darn fool ditty about darn fool Sal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. Yeah, every band's gonna play it soon. Darn fool words and darn fool tune. You'll hear it sung every place you go, from Mexico to Buffalo. Low Bridge, everybody down. Low Bridge, we must be getting near town. She's a perfect, perfect lady. She blushes like a gal when she hears you sing about her in the Erie Canal. Does anybody have any questions? I should mention that this program is being sponsored mostly by an organization called the New York Council for the Humanities. And as part of their funding for things like this, they always like the speakers to take questions from the audience. So if anybody has any, or any comments.
Have you ever gone the length of the canal?
I have not. I've gone on several sections of the canal. I've been through the locks at Lockport a couple times, which is not far from where I live in Buffalo. And I've also been on a stretch of the canal around Little Falls and Herkimer, which is really beautiful. But no, I'd love to. They also do a thing every summer where people cycle the length of the Erie Canal, which is like a 7-day trip. I'd love to do that as well. Yes?
Are you familiar with a song called The Erie is Rising?
I am.
The gin is getting low?
I am indeed,
Do
yes.
you know anything about the origin on that?
I
Is it
do,
a
yeah.
commercial one?
Yeah, I know at least a couple different versions of that. I know a 19th century version and I know a 20th century version. The one that sort of became popularized by Pete Seeger and the Weavers and people like that, you know, the Erie was rising and the gin was getting low. I scarcely think we'll get another drink till we get to Buffalo. Did anybody learn that song?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you've heard it? Yeah. So that's kind of a more modern folk revival version of something that started in the 19th century, which went more like this. All in your bowling, boys, stand by, you sorrel mule. Low bridge, duck your head, don't stand there like a fool. The Erie, she's a-rising, and our gin is getting low. And I don't think I've had a drink since we left old Buffalo. And it goes on to tell, it's another one of these, like the first song I started with, one of these sort of mock fables about terrible storms and boats capsizing and not being, hail and not being able to see the land. And of course this was all completely tongue-in-cheek. The canalers were constantly bumping into lake sailors in Buffalo and ocean sailors in Albany and in New York, and people who had dangerous jobs on water, right? So this whole cycle of danger on the Erie Canal started. So there's some great verses in that one. I'll sing you one more verse. Let's see. 2 days out we struck a rock, no land we could espy. Then a pirate ship bore down on us with his blank, blank, wicked eye. We hollered to the captain to hoist a flag of truce, but it was just the boat Three Sisters out 4 days from Syracuse. So they had a good sense of humor. Anybody else? Any other questions? Well, I want to thank Sandy from the Historical Society and Chuck very much for having me tonight. And I believe there are refreshments.
Chuck will
Okay.
see us.
That's right, folks. We have some great refreshments over here. And Dave, thank you so much for coming.